A fire destroys this Midtown apartment complex, leaving more than a dozen families without a home tonight. We have live team coverage.
Plus, parents hand out grades on a school district plan for dealing with budget cuts. And mushing season gets off to a quick start at the Copper Basin 300, and we've got the highlights.
And now, from KTVA 11 News, this is Nightcast.
Everybody here, I don't know what they're going to do either. I've been in here almost 10 years.
A devastating sight for families tonight. They helplessly watched while their homes went up in flames. Good evening, everyone. I'm Joe B. Hill. Well, the fire left more than a dozen families homeless. It started around 4 at an apartment complex near West 32nd Avenue and Minnesota. In no time, flames spread to several units. My co-anchor, Emily Carlson, begins KTVA 11's team coverage live from the scene. And Emily, this is a tough night for a lot of people.
A very tough night, Joe. As you can see right now, there's just one lone fire truck behind me and just a few firefighters making sure those final hot spots are out and that flames don't start up the fire again. It all started around 4:20 this afternoon when there was a big scene out here. Someone driving by called 911 to report flames shooting out of a building. Now, the good news is that no one was injured, but the bad news, as you can see, several of these apartments are destroyed and more than a dozen families tonight left without a home.
I was in my apartment and me and my friend and I said, wow, it's getting foggy out there real quick. He said, yeah. Pretty soon we hear a lady yelling, fire, fire.
Dozens of residents were forced into the freezing streets as firefighters began their battle to save this apartment complex.
There was some noise. And more screaming. Then we looked outside the window. A lot of smoke was coming out.
The smoke was so heavy, many residents were confused, scared, and in shock. They watched as flames destroyed the belongings they left inside. 8 of these 16 apartments were burned, and the location of the fire on busy Minnesota Avenue didn't help.
This is a congested area. It's tough access. It's tough to get working lines in here and that type of thing. And then fire on 2 floors and a lot of smoke and a fair amount of fire involvement. There was people on the backside that they assisted out of the structure.
It took firefighters more than 2 hours to get the fire under control. A long, exhausting process. The cold didn't help. Firefighters struggled to keep warm as their gloves and clothes began to freeze.
It's labor intensive the longer it goes and the more involvement there is, the tougher it is and the more exhausted people get.
But nothing is more exhausting than watching your home go up in flames, your security blanket destroyed. 1 minute enjoying dinner with your family, the next on the street, wondering what happens now.
I got nowhere to go. I'm a single dad. I mean, I got 8 and 9-year-old girls. So if something happens here, I got nowhere to go.
The cause of the fire is still under investigation, but one of the residents tells us what he saw today. He thinks the fire may have started in the apartment right next to him. He says the family that lives there likes to fry food a lot. He thinks a fire may have started the fire. He says he saw the family leave their apartment just finished minutes before he says the fire started. He thinks they don't speak a lot of English and they went to go get help. But the Red Cross says about 12 to 18 families are without a home tonight. Many of them stood right where I'm standing watching their apartment burn down. Our Dave Detling is here with more live team coverage. Dave, you say that help came from kind of an unusual place tonight.
Yeah, exactly, Emily. You mentioned how cold it was and people actually had to huddle inside their vehicles. That is until a fortunate twist of fate. A nearby school was hosting a community event, but they scrapped those plans when they saw people in need.
We got stuff for the Red Cross, I'm sorry.
Perfect. No, we decided to cancel.
Aquarian Charter School in Midtown Anchorage turned lessons of the ABCs into life-saving techniques.
You didn't even hesitate.
No, not for a minute.
Principal Lucas Saltzman made the decision to open the school's classrooms, gymnasium, and cubbies.
Blankets too, maybe?
After a fire broke out at this nearby apartment complex.
You have no idea at this point?
I have no idea at this point what's going on, why we can't get in.
Lenoy Sanvalesak's mother, along with dozens of families, were forced from Anchorage Sands apartments. Battling the cold and a language barrier, American Red Cross volunteers offered up additional services.
Just to know that they have a place to come to, and there's food, there's water, a lot of support is very warming.
Snacks reserved for students turned into nutritional necessities.
Hot cocoa.
While hallways of art became makeshift centers for first aid. There were small comforts to folks waiting for answers who say they're grateful for a helping hand in the midst of the flames.
Even though, there's that language barrier, everybody's still helping and, trying to come together.
And the American Red Cross has moved those people over to the Spenard Rec Center now. A lot of people wanting to help out. So if you're interested in putting donations, you can log on to our website, ktva.com. We've provided a link to the American Red Cross.
Such a heartbreaking situation when you have to watch people that have lost everything try to struggle with what to do next.
But the good news, the community coming together tonight.
All right, thanks, Dave. Joe, again, 12 to 18 families without a home tonight after the fire behind me destroys this building. Several of those apartments are completely destroyed. Everything inside is gone. We will have an update later again in the show. Back to you.
Yeah, it's a tough loss. All right, Emily, Dave, thank you very much. And here's some more dramatic video of the apartment complex fire sent in by a KTVA 11 viewer. Now, she shot some intense flames shortly after the fire broke out. Check that out. You can also see people outside in the fire department on scene. And we'd like to see your video of breaking news when it happens. Just send video or photos to news@ktva.com. Well, firefighters are still on the scene of that 2-alarm fire in Midtown. KTVA 11's Emily Carlson is there as well, and she is standing by with a recap. Emily.
Well, Joe, the fire chief tells me the fire started in the 3rd floor of this apartment complex behind me. The flames so strong that the floor actually fell out, spilling furniture and things down into the 2nd floor of the apartment complex. There's not a lot going on here right now. One fire truck stayed behind just to make sure they got all the hot spots out, but it was quite a scene earlier this afternoon. It took firefighters about 2.5 hours to bring the fire under control, and the freezing weather was tough on firefighters. Firefighters say that their gloves started to freeze and then their coats started to freeze. About 12 to 18 families are displaced tonight. 8 of the 16 units here were burned tonight. They are staying at the Spenard Rec Center. The Red Cross says they are trying to figure out what's next. Now, just to give you an idea of how long it takes to recover from a fire like this, there was a fire in Mountain View earlier this summer that displaced about 100 people, and the Red Cross said that families stayed with them for 9 nights after that fire. So, Joe, it just starts tonight, the pain and suffering that they have to go through. They have nothing left. Their homes and their apartments are burned, but it's going to take a long time for them to recover from this fire. Back to you.
Certainly will need some help. Thank you, Emily.